Hi guys, training arms today. Typically this video is just sort of more for my personal training clients, but if anybody does get a benefit from following along with this, gym novices that don't know how to structure their workouts yet, then by all means follow along. I hope this helps. I start with just some warm-up bits and pieces, just rotator cuff movements, some bicep curls, some hammer curls, little bits and pieces just to get my elbows nice and warm, tricep kickbacks and tricep overhead extensions. These are 2.5 kilo dumbbells. What's that, like 4-5 pounds, something like that in Yankee Doodle currency. And then the first exercise I do is a rope tricep extension. With a tricep extension I've got a slight forward lean and I'm trying to pull my shoulders back and keep my elbows by my ribs. I don't want to be pushing forward. Again, trying to push my chest out, keep my shoulders back so that my shoulders don't try and help with movement. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to get to 50 reps. Now, I'm using a relatively light weight. I'm not trying to absolutely annihilate my elbows. But you will see that I will struggle and will not get to 50 in one go. So what I do is I give myself a short 15-second break. So I get as many as I possibly can do, but this is all still counting as one set. As many as I can do, I'll count to 15, and then I go straight back in and carry on from the number I left off. And I keep going, trying to push as much blood into that muscle as possible. Now we're doing things like this, a 50 rep set where you give yourself a 15-second break and then go straight in again. You're effectively reaching failure not once, you're reaching failure multiple times in one set. When you start at the gym, it is sometimes quite difficult to get your head around the failure principle. The idea is you are actually trying to fail in the gym. The only way you truly succeed in gaining muscle is by pushing that muscle to the point where it fails. And I can't get to the end now. I've had multiple breaks, I cannot get it, so I just pump out whatever I have left. Now this is liquid chalk. It comes out, well, to be honest, it looks a little bit like just normal hand cream when it first comes out of the tube, but with a little bit of breeze, it suddenly becomes a powder. It dries into a powder that helps tremendously with grip. So you can use lifting gloves, but I wouldn't recommend it. I personally would prefer to just use the chalk. You grab hold of the bar in what's called a supinated position, which is basically underhand grip. Try and get your body slightly out from under the bar, and you're bringing your chin up towards the bar. Try and fully stretch your arms on every single rep. You don't want to do half reps. You want to make sure you fully extend your arm on every single one. And again, the idea is to go to the point where you simply cannot do any more. And then if you want to get anything else left out of that, even do little partial reps just to get something out, just complete muscular failure. That's the goal, complete muscular failure. What I'm doing here is I am setting the safety bars on a bench press. Now if you have a bench press that doesn't have safety bars, you can do this inside of a power rack, which will have bars. I'm setting it to a point where it is literally just above my chest, but I can take my hands away. Now this is for two reasons. One, if I fail on the exercise, I'm not going to get stuck underneath the bar. But two, the actual idea of this is that I am going to be doing reps where I go all the way down, I relax the muscle entirely, and then lift. So I use none of the eccentric force that builds up elastic pressure in the muscle. Instead, I'm making my muscle pause, relax completely, and then lift. So I go down, I place it on the safety bars, I relax the tension, then I lift up from there. Now you may think, wow, that's almost cheating. That gives me more of a break in between each rep. But actually, when you put this into practice, you'll find out you don't have any of the speed involved in the exercise, and you do find that your muscle fatigues tremendously quickly. And again, I managed to get that rep, so I have to go to muscular failure. I try my very hardest, and there it is. I can't do any more. I know I've got everything out of that exercise. Now this is called a preacher bicep curl. It's on a preacher machine. You can do this on a machine, or you can do it on a preacher curl bench where you hold either a dumbbell or a barbell. My hands are very slightly turned in, and my hands, although you can't quite tell on this particular video, my hands are slightly narrower than my elbows. In having my hands slightly narrower than my elbows and turned slightly, that means that I'm putting more pressure. I mean, I'm using the bicep, don't worry, I'm not going to get too scientific with it, but basically there's slightly more pressure on the outside of the bicep. That's as far as we need to go with the science of that. With the preacher curl, try to go down slower. I mean, if you have to go up and jerk the motion towards the very, very top, try not to, but if you do, that's not the end of the world, but certainly don't jerk the motion from the bottom, go down nice and controlled, nice and safely. Next one, overhead tricep extension. Now we focused on the number on that dumbbell. That's not to show, oh, look at what I'm lifting. It's nothing like that. But what I'm doing here is a drop set. I'm using a particular weight that I find very difficult. Others would find this easy, but I find this very heavy. I'm going all the way down behind my head, trying to keep my elbows close to my head. I'm not letting them splay out to the side too much. And then once I've done as many reps as I can with that, I'm now halving the weight down to 20 kilograms. So 50% drop, and I carry on with the same exercise. Again, all the way down and all the way to the top. Full range of motion, and trying to keep those elbows close to my head. I'm also using a bench, which stops me from cheating with using my legs. Although I am fidgeting like hell at this point because I am very tired. I end up deciding to stay on the same bench, and I'm going to be doing bicep curls now. So relatively lightweight. So you'll notice the twist in my arm. I start with my hands down by my side in a neutral position where my fingernails are towards my hips and my knuckles are facing away. And then as I lift the dumbbell, I twist my hands so that my fingers are towards me. And you can see here, when you supinate and pronate your wrist, your bicep does that work. And that's what I'm doing here. Starting in a neutral position and twisting up into a supinated position. Basically from level to underhand. While you're doing this exercise, you can always check your nails at the same time. Oh, I do need to book in with Barb. They're looking awfully sharp. You can also do this exercise, both arms at the same time. I've just chosen to do one arm at a time, focusing on the squeeze of one muscle at a time. But these can be done, two arms in unison. And as I get tired, I just try and put my head closer to the dumbbell to convince myself I've done the full rep. So this is a lying tricep extension with dumbbells. I'm holding a supinated grip, again underhand grip, knuckles to the ceiling, and keeping my elbows nice and high, trying to keep them above the height of my rib cage, and I'm extending my arms out. You won't just feel this in your tricep, you'll also feel this in the back of your shoulder, because your shoulder has to contract and hold your arm up in that position. And then this exercise is an overhand pronated grip, as it's also known, barbell hammer curl. Well, I say hammer curl, it's a bicep curl, but basically it works on what's called your radial brachialis. I'm not going to get too scientific with it, but it's a little bit in your forearm and it goes up into your bicep and it's underneath the outside section of your bicep. Again, you don't need to worry too much about the science and the anatomy behind it. It's a good exercise that when you include it in this routine will mean you've hit every part of your bicep. And it will make your arm look nice and thick. Or at least that's what I'm hoping it'll eventually do to me. I've got a long way to go. And the final stages of training arms, perhaps the most important part, is when you take your shirt off and pose like a tart in the mirror. It's quite bright.